rail options on the busy streets around campus.
We can reduce the numbers of cars that are coming not only to our campus but to our neighborhoods.
Suggestions include bus rapid transit from CSUN to a proposed rail system along Nordhoff Street. Also, bus service from CSUN to the Orange Line on Reseda Boulevard. These suggestions are part of the conversation of the San Fernando Valley Transportation Summit. The main topic, traffic.
It is the worst quality of life issue we face as a region that affects more people on a daily basis than any issue we have, bar none.
LA Mayor and Metro Board member Eric Garcetti is pushing for another half-cent sales tax increase for the fall. Garcetti says it would fund much-needed transportation projects near CSUN, but will Valley voters approve? Some residents complain of being shortchanged during the last transportation tax passed in 2008, Measure R. Metro officials admit just 5% of that money has gone to the San Fernando Valley, even though Valley residents make up 23% of the county's tax base. The mayor says he's working with Valley leaders to make sure this doesn't happen again.
And it's my pledge, and we're working. Bob Blumenfield's already introduced a motion on my suggestion to make sure the San Fernando Valley gets its fair share of the LA City local return dollars, because that ensures that you can get your streets paved, your stop signs put in there, your stoplights installed that we need right here in the Valley.
Voters will decide on a half-cent sales tax measure for bus, rail, and other transportation-related projects in November. Near CSUN, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
A recent CSUN study found about half of faculty and students would get out of their cars and take public transit under the right circumstances. While the LA Zoo is serving up a double dose of predatory warnings this season, the danger of rattlesnake bites could increase in this El Nino year, and a wild cat is attacking animals inside the zoo. Anna Marcos brings us more.
The kangaroo and koala exhibit at the LA Zoo is looking a little bare right now. The 10 koalas are nowhere in sight. They are living in a safe enclosure until further notice, after what zoo officials believe was a mountain lion attack. Surveillance cameras show P22, the Griffith Park resident mountain lion, broke into the zoo the night of the attack. They suspect the giant cat took off with Killarney, a 14-year-old koala.
Probably 40 yards from that space, though, the staff found a puff of fur, no blood, but just a little bit of koala fur on the ground. And then about an hour or more after that, the remains of the koala was located, literally 300 to 400 yards from where the koala was living.
Officials say the predator would have had to jump not only a 9-foot perimeter fence, it would have had to jump this wall and fence, which is another 8 or 9 feet, carrying a 15-pound koala with it.
It would have to be an animal that was capable of carrying that amount of weight and still getting over a 9-foot fence.
Most of the smaller non-tree dwelling mammals are now being kept indoors at night. Zoo directors are trying to figure out where the cat is coming in and how to best stop him. Meanwhile, animal experts say there's another predator that two-legged mammals should worry about this season: rattlesnakes. They say the unusually warm winter weather poses a greater danger that snakes will be out and about. They have some tips for keeping rattlers off your property.
Rattlesnakes especially are almost exclusively rodent feeders, at least our rattlesnake that's found here. And the smartest thing you could do is to keep your property clean and don't draw in rodents. If you have lots of piles of debris on your property, that is going to draw in rodents, and that will in turn draw in snakes.
And if you get bitten, the experts say, forget snake bite kits and folk remedies. Just get to a hospital quick.
Don't put your hand or foot in a bucket of ice. Don't wrap a constricting band or a tourniquet around the extremity. Don't suck on the wound. Don't cut or slice the wound open with a knife or a blade.
One good piece of news: a rattlesnake bite rarely leads to death.
But what rattlesnakes can do is, after they envenomate you, they can cause a lot of tissue destruction. And that damage could result in you losing a finger, losing a hand, losing toes.
Greater snake activity could also rise if the predicted El Nino weather brings heavier storms. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
And back to that mountain lion. Zoo officials say the cat has broken into the zoo before, but had only taken wild raccoons up until now. While high-flying technology could soon change the way cargo is counted at the Port of LA, Gil Reyes shows us some of the latest innovations at the recent Port Tech Expo.
Look, up in the sky, drones. Not for military use, but for faster inventory of shipping containers, specifically cargo that's stacked really high. Inventory using drones could be the wave of the future.
So where you have to get somebody up on a long ladder or on a scaffolding unit, you just send your drone through the warehouse and it'll tell you everything that's on the top shelves.
Drones could also be used for video surveillance at the port, a potential target for terrorists, according to law enforcement. DJI Phantom drones are among the gadgets showcased at the Port Tech Expo in San Pedro.
It's not a trade show. It's really an opportunity for the entrepreneurs to connect to potential customers.
Another innovation that could soon be making its way to the port full-time, autonomous vehicles that will deliver not only cargo, but people.
So this self-driving car that we're developing is actually intended for private campuses. So your resorts, retirement communities, large corporate campuses, university campuses.
And possibly the Port of LA. The car is not totally self-driving yet, but already has technology that prevents it from hitting things.
You'll see the range that we're actually looking for objects in. All the other stuff is actually output from a 3D laser scanner that we have on the roof. And it's constantly monitoring our environment 20 times a second and looking for stuff like, pedestrians, cars, and making sure that we avoid them and act safely.
Driverless vehicles could also help ensure transporting goods by rail is safe. This driverless Rail Scout detects faulty train tracks before a derailment can occur.
One person can be able to sit more in the comfort of his office and be able to watch this thing actually perform its tasks. And especially when it comes to some dangerous situations, when there's flooding and stuff like that, this thing can go out and can see the condition of the track without putting a person in harm's way.
Helping to keep the air clean are the newest electric port trucks. They'll soon be going farther on a single charge.
Drayage trucks. We have trucks now that can go 70 to 140 miles. We're looking at trucks that maybe can go 120 to 200 miles. And those trucks are going to be out here in the ports before the year's out.
Making business at the port cleaner, greener, and more efficient. At the Port Tech Expo, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Around 60 companies showcased their latest and greatest gadgets. Well, who knew a group of neighborhood councils could have this much influence? A mixer at the Valley Alliance of Neighborhood Councils can draw a who's who list of the biggest movers and shakers in the city and the state. Anna Marcos has more on the latest get-together.
The Valley Alliance of Neighborhood Councils was never meant to be.
The Dunn staff and the people downtown did not want us to exist. They did not want neighborhood councils to get together. And the Dunn staff actually visited neighborhood councils and told them not to participate in our alliance.
But the alliance proved the naysayers wrong. This coalition of 34 neighborhood councils in the Valley has just kept growing for 13 years, and the state and city leaders it draws to its mixers are proof of its growing clout.
Look around you. This is what democracy looks like.
And our purpose is to share information. We have researched and taken positions on local issues, ballot measures, and those issues that not only affect the Valley, but the city as well.
I'm looking in a room full of community leaders that you give, and that's what makes our country great.
The group has met every single month for the last 13 years, and when the alliance speaks, it seems, state and city leaders listen.
But it's not just the growth of this event. It is the growth in influence that the neighborhood councils have had. It's the growth in leadership.
Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks for participating in the summit. We're making our voices heard. We want to make sure that this time around, as the mayor appropriately says, that the Valley gets its fair share.
City leaders come here to share their victories as well as the need for rate increases.
We have requested very small rate increases, enough to where you're not going to pay more in the long run. Not everything we need, but I am unwilling to commit more of your dollars.
We won in the Court of Appeal establishing that the city's ban on new billboards stands.
Another highlight of the mixer, the Best of Awards, which go to neighborhood councils with extraordinary community service. Sylmar got an award for creating a Homeless Services Connect Day, while Sun Valley got one for its coalition against human trafficking and prostitution.
Some of the ways the neighbors invested in this cause included installing cameras around their homes and cameras in an alley that helped the prostitution task force make many arrests.
It's a community organized, involved, and committed. And thanks to the Valley Alliance of Neighborhood Councils, it keeps growing stronger. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
The Valley Alliance of Neighborhood Councils accounts for more than a third of all the neighborhood councils in the city. A state appeals court backs the City of LA's ban on billboards. Mayor Eric Garcetti launches a new jobs app designed to help Angelenos find work, and a new exhibit celebrates the accomplishments of women. All these stories in City Beat. A state appeals court panel upheld LA's ban on billboards and digital signs. The decision by a 3-judge panel of the 2nd District Court of Appeal overturned a lower court ruling that found the city's ban violated the free speech clause of the California Constitution. The city's ban on off-site and digital signs was imposed in 2002 and has been challenged multiple times by various billboard advertising firms, claiming it was content-based and in violation of free speech rights. An off-site sign is a commercial billboard in a location other than a property owner's business. The city's ban also prevents the conversion of existing signs to digital displays.
This ruling is extremely important. Again, it gives the city council the authority to stand up for neighborhoods and make sure that we don't have billboard blight throughout the city of Los Angeles. Without this ruling, the city council would not have had those tools, and every neighborhood would have been threatened.
Mayor Eric Garcetti unveiled a new Jobs LA mobile app that allows job seekers to use smartphones to search nearly 50,000 employment listings in the city of Los Angeles and up to 150,000 countywide. The mayor said the app allows folks to search at their convenience. The app filters job listings from 20,000 websites, gets updated daily, and is ad-free. Job seekers can browse help-wanted listings in their area, from opportunities at FedEx and UPS to jobs at law and accounting firms, or even find the nearest WorkSource center. The El Pueblo Historical Monument is honoring National Women's History Month with an exhibit called From Her. On display now through March 31st, the exhibit features 24 pieces of artwork from 19 artists depicting a diverse set of women leaders.
We have pieces that depict teachers, political leaders, women who are entrepreneurs in business.
A new exhibit at the Central Library reveals hateful advertisements approved by Adolf Hitler. The library is showing them so people won't forget. Gil Reyes has more. Gil.
Yes, Yana, this artwork and other propaganda that helped fuel Nazi Germany's hate movement during World War II is on display here at LA's Central Library through August, and it drew one Holocaust survivor who ended up poking fun at the Nazis on a popular television show during the 1960s.
The images bring back painful memories for French-American Jewish actor Robert Clary. Clary is the lone survivor of a Nazi roundup that sent his family to Germany's concentration camps. This happened when he was a teenager.
I'm talking about my mom and my dad and my sisters and my uncle and my nephews. Yes, we were 14 of us with my sisters. 14 of us were arrested. I'm the only one who came back. And I know now, I am positive that my mother and father, when they arrived in Auschwitz, went directly to the gas chambers.
Clary would later gain fame as an actor on the 60s sitcom Hogan's Heroes. The TV comedy about a Nazi prisoner of war camp was quite different from his real camp experience.
I was not that person. I was Louis Lebeau. He was a Frenchman. He was not Jewish. He was not sent to concentration camp. He was just a prisoner of war. And I enjoyed those 6 years with Hogan's Heroes.
Now, at 90 years old, Clary speaks about the real horrors of the Holocaust to young people. Today we're at the LA Central Library in downtown for the opening of a new exhibit, State of Deception, the Power of Nazi Propaganda.
It gets them to think about how propaganda can be used by extremists to win mass support.
And we want to make sure, as we're seeing with the students today, that they understand the lessons of the Holocaust. Why is it relevant to them today to speak up when they see an injustice, for them to question sometimes authority when they see something which doesn't sit right with them.
We expect dozens and dozens and dozens of school classes to come through the exhibit. And of course, every day that the library is open, which is 7 days a week, the exhibit will be open to the public.
Clary, who still has his prisoner tattoo after all these years, hopes others will never forget.
In my talk, I say, you have to remember. When I talk to young kids, I say, and it's your responsibility. You remember those things. You try to be a better human being. Don't hate.
At the LA Central Library in downtown Los Angeles, I'm Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
The exhibit is free and runs through August 21st. Well, we've all heard the anti-drug term, just say no. But now the LAPD baseball team has taken the term and kicked it up a notch. And one Northridge Elementary got a special treat for taking the pledge to say no. Anna Marcos takes us there.
'Cause I said no to drugs.
Yep, these cops from the LAPD baseball team can rap. And the kids at Napa Street Elementary are getting down with it. But it's rapping for a cause.
This is what we do. This is for you guys' future, saying no to drugs, gangs, crime, and bullying. I pledge to say no to drugs.
485 of the school's 506 kids, almost all of them, have taken the pledge. As a reward, the LAPD baseball team has come out to entertain them and to hold a Just Say No rally.
Are you guys ready for some fun?
The students are part of a pilot program by the LAPD baseball team to keep more kids off the streets. All these kids have gone online and taken the pledge to just say no to drugs, gangs, crime, and bullying, and to be respectful and responsible. The school principal says the campaign has been a success since it started in January.
It is working. We've seen a difference. We've seen a difference with our students talking to each other, counseling each other. We've seen a reduction in bullying, reduction in name calling.
We're in the streets every day. We see the kids. We see the crimes. Our goal is to prevent these kids. If you reach these kids while they're little, what happens is maybe they won't be criminals or get into crime when they get older. So our job is to interact with these kids while they're young.
Hula hooping and other healthy activities like ball practice rounded out the Just Say No rally. And of course, walking home with a brand new bike makes saying no that much sweeter. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
If you or your school are interested in the Just Say No program and want the LAPD baseball team to come out to your school, visit lapdbaseballteam.com and take the pledge. Well, it's time to get your cosplay on as WonderCon rolls into town. Take a walk through musical history with some candid photos of Bob Dylan. And as we reported earlier, the new Nazi propaganda exhibit is a must visit. All this and this week's Things to Do. WonderCon is an annual comic book, science fiction, and motion picture convention held in the San Francisco Bay Area until 2011. For 3 years after that, it was held in Anaheim, but now it's made its way to LA. While the main attraction of WonderCon has always been various retailers selling back issues of comic books and action figures, the exhibitor list has grown to include retailers of specialty DVDs. WonderCon is literally the sister show to Comic-Con International, embracing all the main aspects of that show, including comics, movies, TV, animation, a masquerade, and more. WonderCon 2016 will be held March 25th, 26th, and 27th at the Los Angeles Convention Center, located at 1201 South Figueroa Street. For more, visit comic-con.org. Bob Dylan, photographs by Daniel Kramer, documents Bob Dylan's metamorphosis from folk musician to rock and roll icon through more than 50 photographs taken by New York-based photographer and film director Daniel Kramer for a year and a day during 1964 and 1965. On display at the Grammy Museum's second floor through May 15th. For more, visit GrammyMuseum.org. Learning what propaganda is and how to counter it is essential in today's information-saturated world. The special exhibition, State of Deception, The Power of Nazi Propaganda, produced by the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, explores how the Nazis used propaganda to win broad voter support in Germany, implement radical programs, and justify war and mass murder. This exhibit will be on display through August 21st at the Central Library located at 630 West 5th Street. The exhibit and related programs are free. For more, visit lapl.org. And that's a look at some things to do. Well, that's going to do it for this edition. I'm Yana Kane. From all of us here at LA This Week, thanks for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
What if a disaster strikes without warning? What if life as you know it has completely turned on its head? What if everything familiar becomes anything but? Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed today.
Don't worry, Patty. This isn't going to hurt me one bit. Hi, I'm Dr. Eric Shapiro in beautiful Encino, and you're watching LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel. Open wide.
morning. Good morning. Shh. Good morning. It is Tuesday, March 22nd. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to your Los Angeles City Council meeting. This council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m., and the public is welcome. Now, at this point, we do not have a quorum, but we can begin our day with our presentations. Mr. Englander, would you like to start the day? Presentations? So the floor is Mitchell Englander's.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you. First of all, lose the visitor badges. Come on. No, I mean, you are not a stranger here, and you're certainly never a visitor. So, excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. Today, we're launching our Best of Community Service Award, where we recognize outstanding leaders in our community, people that go over and above the call of duty for community and civic service. Patrick LaFrano. Today, I'm pleased to honor Patrick for his exceptional philanthropic endeavors in our community through his nonprofit, Fighting for Families Incorporated. Pat opened his own farmers insurance agency in Northridge in March of 2005. He has since grown his business into one of Farmers' top agencies in the United States. Patrick has been selected to be part of the highly coveted President's Council 3 of the last 4 years. As a member of this prestigious $1 Million Roundtable, recognized internationally as a mark of excellence in life insurance and financial businesses and services. In addition to running a successful business, Patrick has hosted a charity golf tournament for the past 8 years. In fact, his efforts raised over $150,000 for charities like Autism Society of America, Los Angeles chapter of St. Jude Children's Hospital, and the Wounded Warrior Project. In early of 2015, Patrick created Fighting for Families, his own nonprofit organization that raises money and provides support for local veterans and their families. All of the officers and directors of Fighting for Families are volunteers. On November 2nd last year, Fighting for Families held their charity golf tournament in honor of a local veteran, Gabriela Rodriguez. The nonprofit actually purchased and donated a Ford Escape and gave it to Gabriela and her family. In addition, Fighting for Families presented her and her son, Joe, with a check for $25,000. That's about a tank of gas, I think, nowadays. Pat represents the best of our community. He is the best of our community. Someone who gives selflessly and honors those who have sacrificed for our community and our nation. And I tell you, as a son of a 100% disabled vet, I know what it's like for families to struggle, for parents that have left home to put their lives on the front line and come back to have nothing. To have a community, to have a person with not just a big heart, but a passion that actually goes to his friends and family, that goes and tracks down people of the community and makes sure they engage and give. To complete strangers, somebody that puts themselves on the front line. Now, I wanted to share with you, he started this insurance company and it's grown so big. So put that in a context for one moment. He's got his own family. He's growing a business that's thriving. So you all know he's working around the clock every single day, not just for his employees and the community, but then it goes above himself to raise money to give a local first responder, somebody who put her life on the front line to represent and fight for our freedom. to sacrifice so much. And for him to do that and give back is definitely an example that we need to hold up and celebrate. And so it's an honor to present Patrick with our first Best of Community Service Award, which we will be doing regularly. And I couldn't think of somebody more fitting and deserving. So please put your hands together for Patrick Rufrano. And on behalf of all of us, this is signed, Patrick, by every member of the City Council, in the same color ink this time. I've never seen that. And I want to thank all of you. I truly appreciate for recognizing two American heroes here today. Colors of the car?
Gray.
Gray. All right.
Silver.
Yeah. And I'd like to invite you to say a few words as well.
Okay.
Please say a few words, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having us. You know, I think it's important for us all to give back, and especially to the people that do so much for us and for our country. And we've been doing these charity tournaments for a while and never really knowing where that money goes, and it was a little bit frustrating for us. So being able to create our own foundation and our own nonprofit organization to be able to help local veterans in our community is really what our goal was, and I think we nailed it this past year, and we're looking forward to this upcoming year and many years to come, as we're going to really try and find these veterans in our area that need help and take care of them. So thank you for the honor. I appreciate it, and I have to thank my team, my staff, and my board that's on the golf committee. We couldn't do this. It's not a one-person job. It takes a lot of work putting on a golf tournament and things like that. So, again, thank you, and I'll let Gabriella, our great veteran, say a few words, too.
Please come to the mic.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Patrick and everybody that is in the charity. They made a big change in my life. I'm very appreciative of that. I work hard. I was in the military for 11 years. I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan. I did all I could do. It was my time to exit the military, and I come to find them out, and they have really changed my family's life, and I'm very appreciative of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rick Schreiber, the Senior Vice President of the Western Zone for Farmers Insurance, and I just want to say how incredibly proud we are of Pat for his work that he's doing with our veterans. Our company was founded 86 years ago right here in Los Angeles by two gentlemen who are both veterans themselves. Farmers is recognized this year as one of the top 150 military-friendly companies. And we're going to continue our support of veterans and great agents like Pat, who are doing wonderful things for people like Gabriella. I can tell you Pat is known to be one of the top producers in all of Farmers Insurance amongst our 13,000 agents, but he's better known for being a heck of a great guy and a guy who does incredible work in our community. So we're even more proud of him for those reasons. Thank you for having us here today.
Thank you.
By the way, they produced this book, and the book is the highlights of the golf tournament. But on the back of the book, it's got Gabriella and her son, Joe, there. And now, I love that he's in camo as well. So the apple won't fall far. But they're also sitting on a city fire truck. And this is a breathtaking photo. And just want to thank you so much. I also want to particularly thank your family. I know your wife is here as well.
My wife, Casey.
Casey, yes, thank you so much, because I'll tell you right now, he didn't do it alone. And Casey at the bat, she delivered. So it takes a village, it takes a team, it takes a community. But to make sure that our vets are coming home and they have this kind of love and compassion when they get home, we can make a difference And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you've done and continue to do. So thank you so much. Let's give them all a big round of applause.
Thank you.
So take you guys in the back. We'll do some.
Madam Clerk, we do have a quorum. Could you please call the roll?
Blumenfield, Bonin, Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Fuentes, Harris Dawson, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Martinez, O'Farrell, Price, Rue, Wesson. 12 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Rue moves. Price seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Englander moves. Mr. Harris Dawson seconds.
And Mr. President, today is Tuesday, and it's time for the flag salute.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is why don't I ask everyone to rise, and I'll recognize Mr. Englander. If we're going to flag salute, everybody please rise. Mr. Englander.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. As we put our hands over our hearts, we need to think about our freedom. We need to celebrate this country. We need to think about all the first responders who are serving overseas. Our hearts and our prayers are with those in Belgium and Brussels. 2 explosions, at least one caused by a suicide attack on the departure hall of Brussels Airport, killed at least 14 people just before 8 a.m. About an hour later, an explosion, the Molenbeek subway station in central Brussels, not far from the European Union's core institutions, killed at least another 20 and wounded 106. 8 hours after the explosions, a news agency affiliated with the Islamic State issued a bulletin claiming responsibility. We saw just recently in a county right next door, not far from here, a similar attack. As we celebrate and think about our freedom, we have to be mindful of what the families and the communities around the world are experiencing every day. We have to think of our first responders who are on the front line, and particularly our military who are serving overseas. I ask you to join me in the flag salute to honor and worship all of those who lost their lives, who are suffering, all of those families and victims and what they're experiencing, and to think about them with every word. Ladies and gentlemen, place your right hands over your heart. Ready? Begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you could please remain standing and join us in a moment of silence. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Englander. Why don't we go through the agenda at this time, Madam Clerk?
Items 1 through 11 are items for which public hearings have been held. The Arts, Parks, and River Committee report for item 8 has been submitted and circulated for consideration.
Specials, Mr. Cedillo.
Item 3, please.
Item 3 for Mr. Cedillo. Mr. Harris Dawson.
Item 15.
Item 15. We're not at 15 yet. So we will hold Mr. Cedillo's item. We will prepare to vote on the other items, remaining items. Let's open the roll. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Now we will hold item 15 for Mr. Harris Dawson. Mr. O'Farrell.
Mr. President, items 1 and 4 forthwith, please.
Without objection, so ordered. Let's go through the other items, Madam Clerk.
Items 12 through 29 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, so without objection, those items are now before this body. Mr. Cedillo.
Receive and file on item 22, please.
We have a card, I've been informed, so I will take the card on that. So let's hold that. Any other cards?
Yes, there are cards on 12, 13, 14, 17, 20, 21, 22, 25, and 29.
Okay, let us hold those items and let's prepare to vote on the remaining items. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That brings us where?
Mr. President, that takes council back to presentations, items called special or general public comment.
Okay, so what I'd like to do at this time is I'd like to reconsider item 12, Council File 14-1656-54. That was from Friday. I'd like to ask that we vote on reconsideration. Then I'd like to continue that item. So if we could open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, and we will continue that item to the 30th of March. Okay, so now let's... Mr. Rue, are you ready?
And just for the record, that item that was reconsidered, that was 5611 from Friday, which was originally continued to next Tuesday, and now it is being continued by this action to next Wednesday.
Thank you. Mr. Rue, the floor is yours, and Mr. Rue is being joined by Council Member Martinez.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Today is a very special day. I'm very humbled to introduce and honor a true human rights hero, Miss Lee Young-soo. Young-soo was just 16 when she was abducted from the riverbank near her home and dragged to a coastal base for kamikaze pilots in Taiwan, where she was beaten and raped for 2 years. It was the Second World War, and the Japanese government abducted nearly 200,000 women throughout Asia, from Korea, China, Taiwan, and the Philippines. They were forced into farm labor and sexual servitude, becoming victims of the largest case of human trafficking in the 20th century. They became known as comfort women, but to put it bluntly, they were slaves. And while this atrocity has largely been ignored in our history books around the world, Young-soo has been a voice for hundreds of thousands of silent survivors. In 2007, she testified before a joint session of the United States Congress, which sparked a movement requesting the government of Japan to acknowledge and apologize for the imprisonment and sex trafficking of women in wartime Asia. On a personal note, nearly 20 years ago, I visited Korea and went to Nannun House to meet with a number of these women, resilient and wise women. I remember I was nervous. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect. They were in their 60s and 70s, and they were full of life. We exchanged stories. They gave much needed grandmotherly advice. And these brave and strong women reminded me of my own grandmother. Young-Soo has spent the last 25 years traveling the world, fighting for justice of survivors of rape and human trafficking, ensuring that they are never ignored and never forgotten. Unfortunately, history has a tendency to repeat itself. Or in this case, and to this day, we still have not had the success in fully eradicating this injustice. Just look at our own backyard. Los Angeles is a top point of entry to the United States for victims of slavery and trafficking. Our city's diverse and sprawling neighborhoods make it easier to hide and move victims from location to location, making it more difficult to rescue potential survivors. Which is why it is more important that today we honor Ms. Young-Soo Lee for her activism, courage, and resilience. It could have been easier for her to forget, to put it behind her, but she chose not to forget. She speaks for the thousands of human trafficking survivors whose voices go unheard. Those who deserve acknowledgement for the atrocities they endured and for the strength and perseverance in the face of brutality. And no stranger to this issue, and a champion in the city of LA, and the only elected woman in the Los Angeles city government, I'd like to introduce Councilwoman Nury Martinez.
Good morning, colleagues. Mr. Ryu, it's a real honor to join you today to recognize Young-Soo Lee. As you all know, I believe we must take on human trafficking and sexual exploitation on every single opportunity we get. Ms. Lee embodies the bravery and commitment it takes to confront those awful crimes. When she was just 16 years old, Ms. Lee was abducted and forced into sexual servitude. Her campaign to shed light on these crimes of colonial and wartime Asia is admirable. When we hear the stories of women who are victims of human trafficking, we realize that these women are our mothers, sisters, daughters, and friends. Unfortunately, in Los Angeles today, there are still young women like Ms. Lee who are abducted and taken into sexual exploitation. I commend the bravery of Ms. Lee for telling her story and putting a face to this crime and holding those responsible accountable for their actions. The city of Los Angeles can look at Ms. Lee as an example of what we can do to ensure that this practice and these awful crimes and the people who commit them are held accountable. Thank you for your powerful voice, Ms. Lee. You're making the world a better place by speaking the truth. I hope that we use Ms. Lee's story to make sure that we continue to motivate other people to fight against these awful crimes that are committed every single day to women across this country. Thank you, Mr. Ryu, for leading us today and recognizing Ms. Young-Soo Lee. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ryu, can we be quiet, please? It's a very, very important issue here. Even though I was not able to join you at the podium, I want to join you from the President's chair and commend you for not bringing this to the attention of the council, but for a reminder of things that have occurred in the past, atrocities that we want to ensure never happen again. We want to recognize Ms. Lee as the hero that she is, speaking out for thousands and thousands and thousands of women whose lives were permanently altered by slave owners. And I know that I can relate to the scourge of slavery in any form or fashion at any time in the history of this world. It was wrong then, it is wrong now, it will be wrong tomorrow. I want to also acknowledge the good work that Ms. Martinez is doing here on the council to ensure that everyone within this city and county and this state recognize that the Council of Los Angeles will not go quietly into the night on this issue. That we recognize that we, as we speak, are experiencing these problems right now when we have organized thugs from gangs throughout the region that are kidnapping, abducting, and putting young girls into slavery. We cannot say enough about this issue. We must be forever vigilant, and I think that it's very important that we use our the soapbox that we stand on to speak out, to make sure that other people recognize that this is continuing to go on, that lives are being altered, and we need to do everything that we can to see that we can put an end to this, where everyone should be able to live the kind of life that God and that they want to live for themselves. So I can't say enough about you, David. I can't say enough about you, Nuri. Miss Lee, you are so welcomed in this chamber, and know that the Council of Los Angeles stands by you, and we thank you for your great actions. With that said, I'd like to defer to Mr. Krikorian.
Actually,
Mr. Krikorian. Oh, Mr. Rue, I am so sorry. Go right ahead, sir.
Well, actually, should we have the council member speak now? I have.
Why don't we go to Mr. Krikorian, and then we'll have your other speakers. Mr. Krikorian, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Members, we have before us 3 examples of real moral courage. Ms. Lee Young-soo, to have told her story, to have been an advocate for the Comfort Women throughout a time, and particularly in a culture where it would have been easier not to do so. It would have been easier to stay silent. But you had the courage to stand up and tell your own story and help others by doing that. And Mr. Rue, I know that for you, coming forward and presenting today on the Comfort Women issue, it's not without risk for you. And there are there's great controversy among the nations in this. The Japanese government continues to deny its culpability for this atrocity, and it continues to refuse to face up to its own responsibility. And I know you must have been subjected to pressures relating to that, just as have the city councils of Glendale when it installed a memorial to the Comfort Women, just has the Board of Supervisors of San Francisco when it voted to do the same. They were subjected to terrible political pressures from the government of Japan, a government that refuses to acknowledge its own culpability. But you insisted on speaking truth, and I think, in my view, any modern nation should face up to its own history, its own atrocities, its own mistakes and errors of the past, its own crimes of the past, and only by doing that can it become a truly modern nation. And our president mentioned our own history and some of the things that we should be ashamed of in our own history. We've faced up to those things, so should the government of Japan face up to this atrocity that imposed upon these as many as 250,000 or more women. And then Ms. Martinez, to bring this issue current. Ms. Martinez continues to be the champion of women who even today are on our streets suffering the same kind of atrocity as as Ms. Lee Yong-soo suffered. The same kind of trafficking, the same kind of slavery, the same kind of abuse that women right here in our own city women and girls are continuing to experience right here in our own city. So to each of you, thank you for your courage and thank you for saving lives with the work that you're doing.
Before we have Ms. Grandma Lee speak, I'd like to introduce Jessica Postigo, President of the Los Angeles Commission on the Status of Women.
Welcome.
Thank you to Councilmember David Ryu for shining a light on survivors of human trafficking. Thank you to Nury Martinez for being a pioneer in the fight against human trafficking and a beacon of hope for survivors out there. And thank you to the Los Angeles City Council and the Mayor's Office for bringing attention to this issue. Young Soo Lee stands here today as a survivor of institutionalized sexual slavery. Her courageous voice has spread the message of one of the largest cases of human trafficking in the 20th century. And because of it, it's now being included into the story of Comfort Women is included in 10th grade California textbooks as a valuable starting point to students' research and discussion to the present day problem of human trafficking. We all need to know that this is an ongoing problem. It happened in Japan and Korea during World War II, but it's a problem affecting our world and specifically Los Angeles today. Los Angeles is the top trafficking hub of the United States. The Commission on the Status of Women is in the process of creating a pilot training program for City Department employees to identify victims, facilitate reporting, and take the necessary steps to eradicate human trafficking. We look forward to your continued support in advancing Angelenos' awareness that human trafficking is the fastest growing crime in America.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Postigo. Now, the woman of the hour, the person we're all here for, I'd like to introduce Grandmother Young-soo Lee.
네, 안녕하십니까. 역사의 산 증인 이용수입니다. 너무너무 고맙습니다. 여러분, 일부는 아직까지 거짓말하고 있습니다. 저는 위안부가 아니고 이용수입니다. 일본이 밤에 끌고 가서 위안부를 만들었습니다. 여러분, 아직까지 우리 한국과 일본은 협상을 했다 합니다. 이거는 무시합니다. 아닙니다. 아베가 저희들한테 공식적으로 사죄하고 법적인 배상을 해야 세계가 성폭력의 뿌리를 뽑습니다. 여러분, 협조해 주십시오. 도와주십시오. 감사합니다. 할머니, 돌아가신 할머니들 대신 또 아시아, 대만, 중국, 필리핀, 아시아 할머니들을 대신해서 제가 여러분한테 고마움을 절을하겠습니다. 고맙습니다.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Young-soo Lee. I am the living proof of history. I am here to express my deepest gratitude. But Japan is still lying. I am not a comfort woman. My name is Young-soo Lee. Japan is saying that the comfort woman is the name Japanese government gave us. I was abducted in the middle of the night by Japanese soldier. But Japan is still saying that it has been resolved by the South Korea and Japan agreement. The agreement I cannot acknowledge. We ignore it in its entirety. It's not a resolution. Prime Minister Abe must offer official apology and legal reparation for what happened to us. Only then we can start working to eliminate all sexual violence against women. So I deeply appreciate your help and all of your efforts on behalf of the victims who passed away and on behalf of the victims who are alive in Asian countries such as Taiwan, China, Philippines, and elsewhere. I am really grateful. Thank you.
Miss Lee, for all that you've done, I say, 대단히 감사합니다.
And I thank my colleagues for today because this is really full circle for me. This is one of the first issues social justice issues I ever worked on as a college student. And for me to be able to bring Grandmother Lee here in front of City Council at our great city of Los Angeles, it's a true honor. And I just want to say something to the grandmother. 할머니, 너무 감사합니다. 우리 할머니 힘이 너무 넘치셔서요. 제가 힘이 받습니다.
아닙니다. 고맙습니다.
그리고 꼭 안 까먹고요. 저 있는 힘으로 다 열심히 노력하겠습니다.
고맙습니다.
너무 감사합니다.
고맙습니다.
And on behalf of the City of Los Angeles and the City Council, I'd love to present on behalf of all the members here a proclamation to commemorate this day and for Grandmother Lee visiting us today at the City Council. Thank you.
David and Nuri, well done. Well done. Let's take up item 15 quickly before we go to our next presentation. If we could please open the roll.
And a substitute motion has been distributed for council consideration on this matter, so the first vote should be on whether to substitute.
Okay, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Now let's actually vote. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, Mr. Englander?
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, I'm proud and honored to recognize Bruce Doring for his exceptional work and dedication to the International Cinematographers Guild, Local 600, where he has served as a National Executive Director for nearly 20 years. Bruce was born and raised in Montana, and he received a BA in Political Science from Stanford University in 1970 and a JD from UCLA Law School in 1984. Bruce began his career as a young steelworker in Chicago. There, while on the job, he recognized how the workers were not only being treated, but how they were being exposed to risk and put in harm's way. So he established a union newspaper to expose poor working conditions throughout the region. He was instrumental in Chicago in a Chicago Sun-Times expose that led to stronger safety regulations and increased incentive bonuses for employees. In fact, a model that's held up today nationally. Bruce joined the International Cinematographers Guild in 1985. He kick-started a career that has influenced the rapidly expanding creative industry. In 1996, the Guild merged with other camera locals based in New York and Chicago. Bruce then became the National Executive Director of the International Cinematographers Guild, Local 600, in 1996, and served until his retirement this past December 2015. The International Cinematographers Guild, IATSE Local 600, represents more than 7,000 members who work in film, television, and commercials as directors of photography, camera operators, visual effects supervisors, still photographers, camera assistants, film loaders, all members of camera crews and publicists. During his tenure, Bruce was instrumental in recognizing the digital imaging technician classification in the film industry. Under his leadership, he ensured that workers in the film industry could work on projects around the country and still receive health benefits and pension benefits as if they were here working on U.S. soil. What keeps the film industry strong in Los Angeles is keeping our skilled workforce here in Los Angeles. And I want to thank Bruce personally for his lifetime of service, for 20 years of dedication to keeping the film industry strong in Los Angeles. And Bruce is joined today by his wife Lynn, his daughter Katie, and his son-in-law Eric. By the way, Lynn, also an overachiever. I want to recognize her as well. She is a professor at UCLA and teaches nursing. Taking all those folks that and making sure that we have nurses here to fill our hospitals, to work in skilled nursing facilities. This is really a dynamic duo. And so Bruce will have, I'm sure, a long honey-do list. Make no mistake, I have no doubt that his wife will keep him busy in his retirement. But Bruce, I want to recognize you for what you've done to make such an enormous difference for thousands of working families, and we really, truly appreciate it. So on behalf of the entire City Council, this is signed by every member, including Paul Krikorian in blue, right there, so he stands out right there. And we want to thank you so much for your service and ask you to please say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Englander, President Pro Tem Englander, and thanks to this body. I can't think of a better way to cap my 30-year career than to stand before you today and to receive this award, particularly in light of the previous awardees today. I'm deeply, deeply honored. And I just want to say, in my opinion, we are very, very lucky as a labor community to be served by 15 council representatives who care about the lives of working people and who care about defending and protecting middle-class standards. And you know, the work of a union representative is not a lot different than the work of a council person. We get into it because we want to serve our constituents, and then we confront the realities, and we do the fights on a daily basis. And not all of our constituents appreciate the hard work that we do. Well, today, I'm here to thank you for your hard work, because when jobs were fleeing Los Angeles, and when we sat down with our fellow guilds and our unions, and the IATSE locals got together with the DGA and the Screen Actors Guild and the Teamsters and everyone, things were bleak. In February of 2014, only 28% of episodic television was done in Los Angeles. And so we looked for allies, and we found them. I remember Consul Weston in 2002.
Wow.
Well, maybe it was a little after that. And I worked with Paul Koretz and went to law school with his wife, Gail. I've worked with many of you over the years on these battles. And I want to thank you, because when we presented AB 1839 to the state legislature, your voices resonated with them. Your voices resonated with Governor Brown. And because of your support, thousands of middle-class jobs with good benefits returned to Los Angeles. And I know that. Every day when I walk in my neighborhood, I see the shooting that's going on. Not that kind. The kind of motion picture and television work that's going on.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thousands of jobs. And I also see that Los Angeles his reputation as the greatest film center in the world has been restored. The best and most highly skilled crews and the greatest talent. And think about it, I don't know if you've seen the report. In 2015, On Location, comedy shows increased 100% over 2014. Between 2012 and 2015, 1-hour episodic production shot up 78%. And last year was the biggest year since in 20 previous years. That brought in $2.7 billion to the California economy and supported 18,500 jobs. That's what this council has done and helped us do. And I can tell you that Local 600's 5,000 members, all of whom are directors of photography, camera operators, assistants, still photographers, digital imaging technicians, publicists, loaders, they are grateful to you for helping us get the work back because they can now work where they live. And I want to thank a shout out to Councilman Fuentes and Councilman Krikorian, who sponsored AB 1069 in 2009 that laid the basis for the great breakthrough that tripled that incentive in 2014. This award would not have been possible without the support of the members of Local 600, the officers, and our talented staff. I'd like, just to my left is our president, Stephen Poster, who's here with us today.
Give Stephen a round. Stephen, good to see you.
And in the second row is my successor, National Executive Director Rebecca Ryan, and Business Representative Romney McBride. They're here to thank you as well. And I want to thank the IATSE local leaders that I've been privileged to work with all these years. Some of my fondest memories were working on these meetings week after week to put together this strategy to pass this legislation. And in the process, we became a political force to be reckoned with. And I can assure you we're not going away. We have some of our folks today from hair and makeup, costumers, and stage. They're part of Los Angeles. And
did they do your hair or makeup today?
Yeah, well, my hair's not hard. And finally, as Councilman Englander said, I want to thank my wife of almost 44 years, UCLA professor Lynn Doring. And my strong, beautiful, and smart daughter, Katie. And my incredible son-in-law, he's a little short, Eric Pusto. They are my inspiration on a daily basis. Thank you again, Council.
Thank you. And Bruce, before you leave, Bruce, before you leave, I too want to thank you for all of your good work. And you were right where related to my attempt. It was 2002. I think the year prior to that, it was Sheila Kuehl. Yes. And then sometimes things just take a while. And then Mr. Fuentes and Mr. Krikorian were actually able to kind of push this over the goal line. And sometimes it takes, to do a good thing, it takes a long time. But with that said, I'd like to recognize Mr. Paul Koretz. Mr. Koretz?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I'm not sure that your retirement makes me feel any younger. So I've known you since for quite a while. Of course, you graduated with my wife from UCLA Law School back in 1984, and I've had a chance to modestly participate in your career at times when I've gotten to work with you on issues, particularly when I was labor chair in the State Assembly. I have to say there are few, if any, people that have done more to defend Los Angeles' most important industry than you have. You've done an amazing job for all these years. So I just wanted to thank you for that. I'm sorry you retired. I wish you were around for a while longer, but you did a great job while you were there. And I'm glad we're recognizing you here today.
Thank you, Councilman Koretz. Thank you so much.
I will go in the back and take some photos. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Mr. President.
Bruce, take care.
Okay.
Let us move to item 20. Mr. Previn. I have item 20 held special by cards. Mr. Eric Previn. I don't see Mr. Previn. Let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Let's go to item 22. Mr. Walsh, item 22.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, or J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. Okay, another reward for hate-related vandalism at Palisades Charter High School. This is an award for $50,000. I just want you to know that if you kill a black man in this city, the reward posted is $25,000. But if you say something anti-Semitic on a wall, it's $50,000. I want every black person in this area to know that your life is half worth what a Jew's life is. And my grandmother was a Jew. It's worth half. They don't give a shit whether you live or die. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Okay, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll. Is there another card on? I do not have another card on item 22. Let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
And that item is received and filed.
Okay, now we'll move to item 13, Mr. Akala. Item 13. Juan Akala on item 13. Yes, sir.
Yes, item 13 is an item that we know as current item 13. And if he were not current item 13, I would not be talking about it as much as I am. If I were not talking about item 13, I'm sure the Speaker of the House or the Mayor or the City Attorney or any of them would say, stick to the item. But I am sticking to the item because the item is item 13. And item 13 has something to consideration of notion by Mr. Dawson. Where the hell is? Oh, there he is.
He is not talking about the item.
Yeah.
Okay, stay on the item, Juan.
Isn't he Mr. Dawson? He's part of the item.
Stay on the item.
The item by Mr. Dawson is item 13, and I would like to speak about item 13 in particular, not in general. I don't know. Some days I am more inclined to talk about item number 12, but...
No, okay, you're off the subject. Thank you very much. The next speaker, I think Mr. Walsh, item 13. Please stop disrupting the meeting with your sheep sounds. Do it again, I will remove you, okay? Mr. Walsh? Not you, Mr. Kala. That was directed to Mr. Herman.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. Item 13. This is the city selling property to the public, and for a ridiculously low price. And why is the city declaring city-owned property at 710 East 111th Place as a surplus asset? That means it's worth nothing. That means I see no. I understand they're selling it for $1. And is the person who's buying this property, is that person a developer? Who wants this property? Believe me, developers Just start putting money in their pockets, their office holder accounts, and they'll sell you any damn piece of property. They'll declare it a surplus asset. What makes it a surplus asset? What property isn't a surplus asset? And you don't even put the amount of money here.
Okay, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, we'll move to item 14. Mr. Previn. Mr. Akala, item 14. Mr. Akala, item 14. Mr. Akala passes. Mr. Walsh, item 14.
I pass.
Mr. Walsh passes. Let's prepare to vote on this item. You had disrupted the meeting again, Mr. Herman. The next time you'll be removed. Let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, now we'll go to item 25. Mr. Akala on item 25. Juan Akala, item 25. He passes. Mr. Previn, item 25. Mr. Herman, item 25. Item 25, Mr. Herman.
He's coming and going.
Motion by Harris, Dawson, and Price relative to installing street barriers, proceeding the empowerment of Congress north of the Neighborhood Development Council, March 20th and 16th. Now, whether or not empowerment Congress...
Mr. Herman, hold his time. When you guys speak loudly into the microphone, it bothers our translator. So stay on the subject and there'll be no loud hollering or what have you. So now you can return. No, Mr. Akala,
Within
stop
my
it.
1 minute, sir, I'd like to address neighborhood development. It's the same as neighborhood councils who do an inefficient productivity project for anyone in their neighborhoods. So Mr. Dawson needs to stop the DUIs before he pushes
You're
the
off the
bullshit
subject.
any
Thank you,
forward.
Mr.
I hold my
Herman.
time.
Thank you. No, thank you. All right, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, Mr. Walsh, item 17.
John Walsh, tweeting at HollywoodHighlands.org, or blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. Item 17. This, if you check it out, this is another reward, a reward off of the shooting death of Fabian Garcia that happened just a few weeks ago on January 29th. They're up to $50,000. I just want you to know that if you, shows you, $50,000. If I go there and say, I know who wrote anti-Semitic things on a wall, you give me $50,000. If I go and tell you that I know who murdered Fabian Garcia, I get $50,000. And the gentleman you actually paid out a reward to the other day, the police commissioner said he didn't deserve the $75,000. So even if you do it, they try to keep the money away from you.
Mr. Herman, on this item. You know, and hold his time. You only need to fill out one card. So please, in the future, only fill out one card. You do not need to fill out three. Mr. Herman, the floor is yours.
Snitches get stitches. We're all aware of that. How many times have we brought this to the attention of our elected officials? Mr. Price is known in his area
Keep it down.
for a motion of ideas. Sir, would you please not interrupt me, Mr. City
No,
Attorney?
would you please keep it down? When you holler, it bothers our interpreters. I'm not going to have it. You want to speak? Speak into the
In my 1
mic.
minute, as I proceed forward with the information regarding January 29, 2016, snitches get stitches. Don't report anything because these elected officials, all of them, all 14 minus one who runs a pimp poverty issue in the valley, is responsible
on the
for all the
subject.
shootings and killings.
All right, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, we'll move now to item 29. Mr. Akala. Item 29, Mr. Akala.
I am almost prepared. Item 29 has nothing to do with item 13.
You're off the subject.
Motion Boscaino Krikorian relative to the street vacation proceeding to vacate the alley northerly of Riverside Drive from Carpenter Avenue to approximately 135 feet westerly. Oh, God. I've been there. That place looks like shit. I've been there. I don't really like it. I don't know when the city is going to get around to fixing the city. This place it stinks.
You're off the subject. Thank you,
No, I'm
Mr.
talking
Akala.
about this place that you're going to vacate. For what reason? Because it stinks. Isn't that the truth? I am talking about the vacation. By the way, you just came back from vacation, didn't you?
Thank you. You're off the subject. Okay, Mr. Herman, Mr. Walsh, please come forward. Item 29. Mr. Previn, if you're here, come forward as well. Item 29.
John Walsh, blogging at J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. We're now on item 29. This is another so-called street vacation. These are the alleys. The developers want the alleys. Why should we give them the alleys? I mean, so the gangs can hang out there? This is we are handing, a vacation means that they're not even paying for this. The developer isn't even paying the $1. Relative to street vacation, to vacate the alley northerly of Riverside Drive, this is in the valley, from Carpenter to 135 feet westerly thereof. This is a deal. It's a corrupt deal. You give away our property. It belongs to me and you.
Okay, Mr. Herman. Start his time.
Now, when you give property away, usually there's a contract. And that contract pertains to the public interest. All of you who pay taxes, and to waive your agreement on that contract says that we are being bamboozled by the bamboozles who take your money, hardworking money, and give it to those of no interest, such as the interest I have here today. No interest. Because currently, Mr. Krikorian should know better.
You're off the
to
subject.
The street vacation. I'm reading it off the fucking guidelines up there.
Okay, now you're off the subject. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's vote on this. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, and I want to acknowledge, and I apologize, kids, that you had to listen to this. We have a class here, Los Angeles Christian School, first graders on a field trip. They're studying social studies and learning, they're trying to learn how to be a good citizen. Thank you all for coming. Thank all of you young people for coming. All right, let's move forward to our next item, which is item 21. Let's get Mr. Previn. Mr. Walsh, please come forward. Mr. Walsh, you have 1 minute, I'm informed.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. J. Walsh Confidential. This concerns Beechwood Canyon. Now, as we know, traffic enforcement is terrible there. People hang out there. They do drugs there. And now you're going to add traffic enforcement, but only during the spring break. I just want everyone to know in America, come to Hollywood, come to the Hollywood Hills. You can get away with any darn thing you want to do in Beechwood Canyon. Drugs, sex. You can harass the neighbors. They don't give a darn what's happening there. And now in Beechwood Canyon area, but just for show, during the spring break, they'll add one single 8-hour officer. That's all you're getting is one extra one, while thousands and thousands come there to party and commit crime in Beechwood Canyon.
Mr. Herman.
Mr. City Attorney, I'd like to address you whether or not there are multiple violations of the Brown Act here, and I suggest that you keep
You're not on
order.
the subject. Stay on the subject,
Now,
Mr. Herman.
Chair, there's an issue regarding how people park, where they park, and how they park with traffic-related issues of enforcement. And you know damn well that the city attorney is supposed to enforce an ordinance to protect ourselves from those who create traffic enforcement issues. And as long as there's animals and people in the street, this enforcement should be well respected in order to improve the quality of our life from the issues of programmatic access on our sidewalk and streets. Wiltz versus Los Angeles, Barden versus Sacramento. I waive my initial second. I keep 1 minute.
Thank you. Let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the...
12 ayes.
Thank you. Let's move to item 12. On item 12, I have Mr. Zumadog, Mr. Akala. Please come forward.
Herb, 10 years since the first Hootie Hoo, y'all, but let's keep it on topic. I'm here to talk about the rent escrow program. And if you are on this list today of rent escrow, I'd like to let you know that there's an FBI investigation into the LA Housing Department over this rent escrow program. They have interviewed city employees. They've interviewed people on the rent escrow program. Also, a Superior Court case that is currently in play. It's been pushed to May. That also may have implications. So I'd like to advise the city to definitely remove these properties off of the rent escrow. I would also advise to immediately suspend your rent escrow program due to the fact that the FBI is investigating through its interviewing of city employees of the housing department. That's very serious. Out of everything that I've discussed over my 10 years of Zumadog in City Hall, there's only one issue that the FBI has an ongoing investigation. That's why I'm focusing on it, and it is the housing department of this specific program, rent escrow. To repeat, if you are, and let me just read some of the properties We have one on East 45th. We have another one on South Avenue 19. Check the lacity.org agenda. If you are one of these homeowners placed under, here's how it works. The city will come up to you and say, hey, you know, you got to mow your lawn, you got to fix this fence, you need to do a laundry room here, you got to do some improvement. The minute you can't pay, then they come in and put a lien on your property. Now, if you do comply, now here's why this city is in big trouble with the FBI over rent escrow.
Keep your voice down.
Because once you have taken care of it, the city has a bad habit of not following through on the paperwork of removing you off the lien, and then it goes through the process and you lose your house. We got a lot of people that lost their properties due to flat-out mafia, racketeering, corruption at the most vile, disgusting level. You better stop this program. My name's Zumadog, Zumadog.com.
Thank you. Mr. Alcala, you have 1 minute.
1 minute is more than enough to tell you that everything the city does inconveniences the people. This rent escrow bullshit has to stop because it's also part of your lean program. That means you want to keep the people lean in their pockets, and you want to put that money in your pockets, which is kind of stupid. The federal government prints the money. Why don't you ask the money from the federal government and leave the people alone, you motherfuckers?
You're off the subject.
I'm not off the subject when I call you that because that's
You're
what
off
you
the
do
subject.
For the people.
Thank you, Mr. Alcala. Mr. Walsh? You're just, Mr. City Attorney, this is the second time that I asked Mr. Alcala not to disrupt the meeting. Don't do it again, Juan, or you will be removed. Mr. Walsh is out of time. I'm sorry. Ms. McAllister.
Yes, I want to speak about these liens on people's houses. Now, I noticed in this agenda you took out item 1 where we would list all the houses that were on that were given new liens. Now, I don't like that, and I wrote a letter into the record. I object to that. We want to know what houses you put liens on. You took it out of the agenda.
Stay on this item.
This is the first time. Now, item 12, these are the liens that you said that people had liens removed. They paid the fines, and the liens were removed. This is fine, but we want to know who got the liens too. Now, also, these people in item 12 who had the liens removed, they had to pay 250%.
Okay, wait a second. Hold her time. Sergeants, we've got a disruption in the back. We have a man in a Klan uniform, costume in the back, and he's bothering other guests that we have in the council chamber. He's disrupting the meeting. Sorry about that, Ms. McAllister. But Sergeants, please keep an eye on that. Yes, ma'am, the floor is yours.
Okay, so back to item 12. These are people who had the liens removed. They paid the fine. What I don't like is you have a 250% penalty that you're putting on people, and I'm sure that the people who paid off these fines, that money has been charged to them. I want that 250% taken down to 20%. We're here to help.
Get back on the subject, Ms. McAllister.
This is the subject. This is about the liens. Okay, I object to this lien process of 250.
It's not about the liens, Ms. McAllister. Stay on the subject.
Mr. President, you can't tell me what...
you're off the subject.
This is about liens.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Herman, does he have any more time? 1 minute.
First Amendment, we're talking about rent escrow. How dare rent escrow being probed by the FBI in an investigation for deliberately stealing from the public, taking people from their homes, and negotiating bad deals, bad business, bad local government. Peace to Gregorian, taking my picture. Now back on subject. We the people demand action that the FBI continue its investigation on Krikorian, our budget man,
Stay
and the
on
rent
the subject.
escrow. One in particular property located at 131 East Avenue. We downsized the CRA and all your redevelopment.
You're off the subject. Thank you so much, Mr. Herman. Let us prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Mr. Cedillo, you want to take care of item 3 at this point?
Let me, as you can see, the chambers are full with tenants who are here to watch this historic moment. It's an incredible victory for both tenants and landlords because it's putting us in a position where we can make sure that the city is ensuring the habitability of units within the city of Los Angeles. This is a pilot project that we've been working on for a very, very long time. And again, I want to praise the work of my staff, Jen Rivera. I want to praise Jim Clark on behalf of AGLA. And I want to praise the tenants who, as I had mentioned in a previous meeting, have really stepped up and engaged the city, engaged the department, engaged the association, and really participated in earnest negotiations to get us to this point. We're at a point now that we're able to bring the parties together. They make agreements that they can both fulfill, and then we can move forward to ensure greater habitability for tenants in the city of Los Angeles. Before I ask for this to be voted on, I want to make sure that we inform the department that we've got one more meeting left between the tenants and the landlords, and that's simply to tweak a question of notice and waiver for the tenants with respect to this. What was happening was that in many instances we would ask the city to come and look at some damages at a facility, and some landlords, a small amount, would go and basically paint over. And it would look as if it had been resolved, and it hadn't been resolved. And there's what people refer to as Mickey Mouse repairs, and it was basically a fraud upon both the tenants and the city by some small percentage of landlords. And so we are fixing that today. And we are at the point after, as I said, over a year of negotiations and collaboration, at a point that we have a resolution. And so we're asking the department to have one last meeting. And with that, we are prepared to move forward and ask for an aye vote.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Cedillo, that's great work. And you should be, the owners, the tenants should be commended. Mr. Harris Dawson.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I just want to rise and thank Councilmember Cedillo so much for bringing people together. I see folks from ACE and LA CAN and a host of other organizations that represent renters and those and working people who live in the houses. And I also see representatives from the Apartment Owners Association. And so in a world where often we are pulled to pit angels against demons, good people against bad people, you've done the work to pull people together and come up with a solution that today everybody's here to support. So I think that's a real big deal, and you get props from us in CD8, and we're also join you in asking our colleagues for an aye vote.
All right, so Mr. Cedillo, on this item, why don't we open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Congratulations. Want to get, that was already, there was no need, public comment was already satisfied on that item. Let's vote on reconsideration on item 12. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote. Mr. Hurd, is there a mark? Mark Hurd? Mark Hurd? Please come forward, sir. It was on item 12. Your card was misplaced. Sorry about that.
Thank you for not losing that card. I appreciate that. I agree with a lot of the sentiments of some of the earlier speakers. I agree with a lot of the sentiments of the earlier speakers. I'll call you right back. And I just want to say that I had a friend who spoke.
Hold tight, Mark. Hold tight. Yeah. Hey, let me get you a little quiet. Okay, why don't you let's try it.
How'd the sheep get in here? I don't know. So anyway, a friend of mine talked to me about this. He owns a lot of properties, and he said this is a real problem, this rent escrow thing. You know, you can have a neighbor call out on you who doesn't like you, and the next thing you know, your property's under investigation. What Zumadog said was real. And, you know, when I hear stuff about this stuff, I know it's real. You know, when you talk to people who own properties and they tell you that, you know, the city is doing some very curious things. And I hope you guys take what Zumadog said seriously. I know he says it in a very colorful way. But what he said is dead on. And congratulations to Zumadog for 10-year anniversary. This is terrific. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Let's prepare to vote on this item again. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, now we're on general public comment. Okay, let's start off with Mr. Akala. Followed by Ms. McAllister. Now, do you want to speak or you want to play with a plastic bottle?
I'm recycling, sir.
No, you're not. Go on and speak, Juan.
Okay.
Do it again. Sorry. Okay, thank you.
I'm not.
Yeah, you are. You're disrupting the meeting again.
Listen.
Go sit down, Miss McAllister.
No, I'm actually wanting to speak.
No, you can't do that. No, you can't. Go on. He's disrupting. And Mr. Herman, do you want to stay and act like it? Hold on one second. Akala, you remove Akala. No, you remove Akala now. He's still disrupting the meeting. No, hold Miss McAllister's time. Well, you're going to get removed. You're continuing, Mr. City Attorney.
Mr. Alcala is still yelling as he is walking out of chambers.
Ms. McAllister, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I want to speak on this item 3. I think this is a good idea. This is what I've been talking about, where you will have an inspector go out to people's homes and look at the property and give them 30 days without charging them any fees and things like that. Now, what I do object to is the communities. I see we've got the pre-repair in CD1, Council District 1, Cedillo. These are illegal aliens. I object to that in Hollywood. That you know, we've got some there, but I object to Council District 1 and Council District 4. Rue, he has a lot of Asians are the second largest illegal alien group in the nation, the Hispanics and Asians, and I object to that. We shouldn't be fixing up homes of illegals. Now, here's another thing. While you go in the home and inspect and give them these 30 days, tell them about this $5,000 that's available under the Handiworker program. Quit trying to hide that money. That money belongs to the homeowners. Tell them that they may qualify for that $5,000 and give it to them.
Thank you. So, Mr. Walsh, are you still here? Followed by Mark Roman.
John Walsh at J. Walsh Confidential. Anybody but Mitch Englander for supervisor. Yeah. Anybody to replace Mike Antonovich. 1/2 cent sales tax to MTA. They call it R2. We call it R2 detour. R2 detour. Go check it on our website. We don't want to give them, they want to spend $1 billion to build a tunnel through the Hollywood Hills, and then they're going to charge you to a fare. Zumadog was the one who filed a lawsuit in federal court. That's why we're allowed to use words that you can't use on television. Anybody but Mitch Englander. And the anti-palladium, you just passed an EIR. For the palladium, that will be on the law to destroy that Palladium skyscraper. That will be on the agenda.
Thank you, sir. So, do I have Mr. Roman? Mr. Roman, followed by Mr. Hurd. Are you still here? Mark, yeah, you're next. Yes, sir.
My name is Mark Romaine, actually, but goes by any other name, no problem. I'm actually in L.A. because I was hoping to get on the ballot to run for Congress in the 33rd District. My efforts were impeded criminally, threatened, harassed, and intimidated on a regular basis, so I was unable to attain ballot access. However, I'd like to congratulate Mark Hurd for attaining ballot access on the Senate, and I may be holding myself out, I will be holding myself out at this point as a write-in candidate, so people have a choice other than the Democrats and Republicans. I'm running my campaign against agnotology, which is culturally constructed ignorance, purposely created by special interests to hide the truth and spread lies while lining their pockets at your detriment. Thank you.
Okay, if we could get...
Thank you so much, Council. Thank you to everybody here for the job you guys do and the hard work you guys put in. I have a couple of concerns, though. You guys came out with a new plan regarding the sidewalks. Sounds great. We always get warm and fuzzy about a year before elections. And then, you know, I've seen so many sidewalk plans over the years. You guys had a plan to sell our parking structures. That was $1.75 million, and that all went up in the air. Taxpayer dollars, just like that. Whoosh, gone. We didn't sell the parking structures. What you did was you created havoc, and all the neighborhood councils in Westwood and Hollywood, we all had to waste our time going from one issue to another, just wearing us down. I'm concerned that a lot of these plans go nowhere, and they're just a waste of time and a waste of taxpayer dollars. You guys had a crisis, and in Encino, you leased out a fire station for $1 a year for 30 years, so you could apparently, I don't know, appease a crowd, make a crowd happy, I don't know. You guys have to spend your dollars better and quit making plans to make plans that go nowhere. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, if I could get Mr. Zumadog and Mr. Hunt, please come forward.
Yes, thank you, everybody. In case you're wondering, this is what 10 years feels like. The first time we heard hooty-hoo in the council chambers on the 10-year anniversary of Ordinance 4215 that brought me to council. Now, it resulted in a federal lawsuit, Victory Zumadog versus City Council. And I'm here to say I came here to talk about something else, but I believe it's time for me to file another lawsuit. And if Herb especially would listen, because I believe that after losing a lawsuit about censorship, when you cut the time in half for the public, that is another form of censorship. And I believe Pragerson will agree with me, especially when you consider the fact that meetings should start at 10 and you have hours of presentation BS, and then you violate the 3-minute rule on each item. And I'm here to say that when you add it all up, Pragerson's going to say, put the clock at 2 minutes. Don't you agree? So there's Dion shaking his head, which is fine. Dion, I love you, buddy. Happy 10-year anniversary. Zumadog.com.
Okay, come on. Keep it down. Keep it down. Okay, if I can add. No. No, wait, Mr. Hunt. Mr. Hunt, please keep it down. We are getting complaints from our translation people. If you yell and scream, you will not be able to speak. So we can hear you. You have a microphone.
I am the 10th anniversary. I am the 9th Circuit winner. I am Michael Hunt versus the City of Los Angeles. $500,000. One more against the LAPD. But just like Zumadog says, it needs to go back to 2 minutes. You guys need to make an ordinance right now for all LAPD to get DNA tested. After raping those 2 women, you guys ought to be ashamed of yourself. Everybody in LAPD needs a DNA test. Herb, it starts with you. You're the leader. I want to see that ordinance drafted up where all LAPD have DNA tests. I am the outlaw. I am the one who started this. I am the one that brought everybody down here. Hooty-hoo to my boy, Matt Dowd, Zumadog, and Michael Hunt, the Venice Outlaws.
Thank you. If I could get Crystal Crystal Jones and a Marcus Harvey, please come forward, followed by Mr. Spindler.
I am with HumanityWarriors.com. We have addressed City Council more than 10 times on wireless technology being weaponized and the fact that these poor victims are not able to go to their local Los Angeles Police Department and get any type of report to be able to report these crimes. You people need to work with LAPD in order to make it fair for victims of wireless technology to be able to go in and report these crimes. We know that there is not a law intact right now that can help LAPD to get rid of these devices or what have you, but the victims do need to be able to at least report the crimes so that when we get the law in effect, you guys are going to have a place to go to get rid of the people that are doing this to these poor victims out here. You've got kids under attack, man, getting raped and murdered every day by wireless technology.
Thank you. So, do we have Mr. Harvey, followed by Mr. Spindler? And then I have Meher Kadmiri. Please come on up.
Start DNA testing these psycho cops. Crazy, crazy shit. 2 minutes needs to be done because we're on the 10th anniversary of the precipice. The first hoods that came here, hootie hoo, they're back again in the 10th anniversary of the new dawn. 2 fucking minutes? You can't give us 2 minutes. Turning their chairs, hopeless. Steve Soberoff just had an aneurysm in the other building. Poor Steve Soberoff, he had an aneurysm. No on Mitchell Englander. Please vote no on the county board of supervisors for that piece of shit. No on Mitchell Englander. And no on the dead Janice Hahn. Janice Hahn is really embalmed and dead. They just animate her on TV. Vote no on Janice Hahn. Liberate L.A. County. Hootie hoo!
Thank you. So I have Mr. or Meher Kadmiri, followed by, is it Mr. Prentice Jenkins still here? Please come forward. Yes, sir. Identify yourself.
Meher Kadmiri. I'm a targeted individual. I've been followed for the last 3.5 years. I've been tortured by electromagnetic equipment. I've been harassed by community individuals. This program is called COINTELPRO. This program has been in existence since 1970s, and it still exists. This program, you need to work with the LAPD, and this needs to be stopped because in the last month, 3 people killed themselves. We cannot prove. We have no way to prove this. They listen to us through the phones. They listen to our conversations at home, in the car, wherever we are, and they use these words that we use in details wherever we go. Wherever we go, they sit next to us, and they use these words to tell us that they are.
Thank you, sir. So if I can get Mr. Jenkins. Did Mr. Harvey come back in the room? Okay, then Mr. Harvey, then Mr. Jenkins. Go right ahead, sir.
All right, so you hear what he's talking about, wireless weapons. These are sound weapons being used on random citizens, men, women, and children. We're very concerned. We don't want to get attacked by them. So we're like, okay, what are we going to do? You know, because we don't have a shield against these things. All human activity is being sampled. You got people saying they're seeing through their eyes. That's only because the game's been strategized to put these people in a mental situation using wireless radar tracking, radio weapons, because you can't see this stuff. So it's coming through steel, water, and concrete, exploding people's heart, instant headaches, difficulty breathing, interacting with all electronics, shutting down people's cars, system failure on computers. This is to keep its presence and to keep the electronical ambush. And it really don't make any sense why nobody's moving. This isn't a game. This is serious. So we're going to keep coming until you guys get it right and hopefully get 1 million people out there. That's what we're trying to do because we care about our lives.
Thank you. Thank you. So if I could have Mr. Jenkins followed by Mr. Herman and Miss in the back. Did you put in a card? I don't see your card. Okay. I just didn't want to miss you. So we have Mr. Jenkins, Mr. Herman, and a Mr. Rodriguez. Yes, sir. No, come on, Mr. Jenkins. You have to speak. We're not listening to that. No, come on. Just tell us what's on your mind. Go on. Start his time. Start his time. No, if you have something to say, you say it. No, you're not. Thank you very much. Sergeants, we don't, if he has to speak, he speaks. You remove him from the mic. No, we don't do that. No. Move. Come on up, Mr. Herman. Come on, Mr. Herman. You want to be removed? Remove Mr. Jenkins, sergeants. Remove you. Remove you. No, remove him right now. He's disrupting the meeting. Sergeants, remove him. You are removed. Go ahead. You are removed. Walk his computer out with him. No, you're disrupting the meeting. You're disrupting the meeting. You are disrupting the meeting. Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman and a Mr. Rodriguez.
We do need DNA on all LAPD officers after 2 rapes and a history of civil rights violations. We also need to check into the reason why there's so much alcohol intoxication here at City Hall for necessity and public convenience. 3 DUIs. What the fuck's wrong with you people? But yet the homeless population remain on our streets. And that's the reason my First Amendment right says, fuck you. Fuck you for fucking with people who have a right under the Constitution to express, be heard, and be acknowledged. You, little Negro, stop taking away our public time under the Ralph M. Brown Act 54950, 54954.3.c, and I will criticize you to the end of the fucking world.
Thank you for showing us the extent of your vocabulary. Mr. Rodriguez, are you here? Juan Rodriguez? Please come and speak, sir.
Hello, people. My name is Juan Rodriguez, and I'm a victim of mental harassment. Everything started here in Los Angeles about 2006. There is this thing going on here in Los Angeles. I know everyone knows, but we're living in the night. I understand that we're trying to live in a new society free of a lot of things, but we're paying a high price for that knowledge. Everyone wants to keep it secret, but that secret is hurting a lot of people. In the Latino community, this crime is widespread, and we should do something, and you should do something too, because this is not a human being just being a victim. It's a human being being a target.
Thank you very much. Okay, Madam Clerk, this concludes general public comment. What else is before this body?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Okay, before I do that, let's send item 15 forthwith. The items are posted and referred. Announcements, members. If all could please rise for adjourning motions. If all in the chambers would please rise for adjourning motions. Okay, we're trying to adjourn. Sergeant, show Mr. Herman the way out. In fact, we're having a disturbance. I think what we want to do is we want Mr. Herman and his crew back there, Mr. Herman, to be removed. And you can take Michael with you, Mr. Hunt. Mr. Herman, no. Mr. Herman, you're removed. You and Mr. Hunt are removed from council chambers. No, you love you right back. You're removed. You are removed. You are removed. Sergeants, help Mr. No, you are.
And
you are removed. You are removed. Oh, wait, and who? Now you got to go, and sergeants, come back and get this guy right in the, I don't know his name, in the gray sport coat, so he can finish his conversation with Mr. Hunt. Please rise for adjourning motions. Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, it's with sadness that I rise today to adjourn in the memory of Percy Pinckney. Percy was born in Macomb, Mississippi, and raised in San Francisco, California. He was a U.S. vet. He earned his degree at San Francisco State and a master's in social work from Lone Mountain College in San Francisco. From 1960 to 1963, as I said, he served in the Army. From 64 to 75, he was co-founder and associate director of youth services in San Francisco that specialized in gang intervention. From 1975 to 1982, he was a special assistant to Governor Jerry Brown, leading his community relations department. He later joined Senator Feinstein's staff in 1972 and was there until he retired last year. Colleagues, you may remember when we honored Percy Pinckney here on the floor for his 40 years of service, public service, and we congratulated him on his retirement. He is going to be sorely missed. Many of us affectionately called him the Godfather. He was a source of inspiration, of encouragement, of support for so many of us. He was the guiding force behind the Black American Political Action Committee, BAPAC, which was continues to be a strong force in public life here in California. He's going to be laid to rest this Saturday at Mount Vernon Memorial Park in Fair Oaks, California, and he will be greatly missed by family and friends and a community who is grateful for his service. Thank you.
And he will be missed. He was an institution, and it's going to be kind of unique to go to events and not see Percy Pinckney there. Mr. City Attorney?
Mr. President, Mr. Spindler should be told to get out of the center aisle.
Yeah, please get out of the center aisle. Mr. Cedillo?
Let me add my voice and join my colleague on the remembrances of Percy Pinckney. He was an incredible man. He was a really good friend. As you said, ever present, hard to go to any event, not seeing him. He was around my campaign a lot, and I really appreciated it. I got to know him at Local 660, where I got to meet a lot of the great leaders, including yourself, of the African American community, and was a friend of his. We used to call him the Senator every time I saw him, and he would invite me to those breakfasts that he'd put together when he'd come in, and just a really good friend, a mentor, a stalwart of the African American community, and just broke my heart to see those. I got the text on the weekend, and just kind of a shocker. I guess once he was finished with his work, he was pretty much done with all of us. So God bless him and God rest his soul.
You're right. I'm still looking. Mr. Weezar?
Mr. President and colleagues, also I said we adjourn in memory of a great friend to many people on this horseshoe, and that is Marco Antonio Farbaugh, who passed away 10 years ago yesterday, but whose trailblazing work continues to impact the lives of California residents. Marco was born in Tijuana, Mexico, and migrated to the United States as a young boy, eventually becoming a prominent state legislator after first being elected at the young age of 32 years. He served 6 years in the state assembly and was poised to become a state senator before succumbing to complications from a liver ailment at the young age of 39. As an assembly member, Marco championed many groundbreaking bills and worked tirelessly to improve the lives of young people. Under his leadership, he guided the State Allocation Board to invest more than $16 billion towards new school construction and modernization of public schools. He passed the landmark legislation AB 540 that allowed undocumented students in California to pay in-state tuition at all public colleges and universities rather than the out-state rate for non-residents. This bill set a historic precedent and has since been adopted by several states. To commemorate the 10th anniversary of his passing, the California-Mexico Study Center has established the Marco Antonio Fireball Dreamers Study Abroad Scholarship Fund. In addition, Cal State Long Beach held a candlelight vigil last night, attended by students from various colleges and universities in the Los Angeles area, thanking the assembly member for his work. Those who knew him were blessed to witness firsthand his passion, incredible heart, and never-ending commitment to improving the lives of all those around him. Because of his willingness to stand up and fight for them, millions of lives have and will be transformed, and I can think of no greater legacy than that. We certainly miss him, trailblazer, true friend, and someone who actually, when I was asked to run for the school board by then Mayor Reardon, Mayor Reardon told me I should go out and get some support from the East Side. He was concerned about his popularity on the East Side, but I went to Marco, and Marco introduced me to a number of folks who helped me make my first campaign for the school board. He also opened up the doors for many, many other people at a very young age. Certainly, life ended way too early. Thank you, Mr. President.
And I'd like to sign that. 10 years ago, I signed and led the adjourning in his memory. For those of you that don't know, Marco Fireball was my majority leader when I was Speaker of the California State Assembly, one of the most operative young men that I've ever seen, I mean. And I can remember, I can close my eyes and see him running around the floor. He would be in this great, expensive suit and tennis shoes because he was always on the go, meeting with the Republican caucus, making sure he was whipping up the votes. He was full of energy, as loyal as the day is long, and I think about him on a regular basis. But I tell you something that happened, I want to say it was last year at the Kingdom Day Parade. His daughter, that I remember when she was just a child, participated in the parade, and she came up, and she's a grown woman, and she remembered me from all of the photos that the two of us have taken together. So he was definitely, without pause, taken away from us too soon. But his mark will never be forgotten. He did a lot in his short period of time. He really did. I'm going to look to my left side. Are there any more adjournings to the left, to the right? Seeing none, members, this meeting is adjourned.